When you enter court, you're entering because there's a dispute or a problem and you're hoping someone can solve it. You're normally surrounded by lawyers, and it's quite a disconcerting experience, I would imagine, especially if you have no legal experience. And as a result, you feel disorientated, you might feel confused, you feel anxious. And I think that's the first experience.
The Governance Support Programme joined the Office of the Chief Justice national staff to really go to the ground and walk those steps. Colleagues of mine and I, we were on the ground and really looked into those processes to see whether it also makes sense.
So the relationship between the OCJ and GIZ was to look at making courts efficient from an administrative perspective. The judges know how to do their jobs, let's make the courts as efficient as possible to allow that to happen. The 3 interventions which were going to be implemented at the courts was the introduction of a help desk, an e-upliftment process for the files, as well as a shared folder. The idea for the help desk actually comes from the Labour Court here in Johannesburg, in Braamfontein.
Our help desk is much more than just a reception desk. Everyone, whoever comes here, they see us as the face of the Labour Court. So if a person comes and wants to know where should I go to get my matter set down, where should I go, my matter was in court on such and such a date, we are able to just stand up and just go and assist and look for the files or with them to the relevant person.
The information currently contained in each registrar's office remains either in the head of that registrar or on the desk of that registrar. That information is currently not being shared. The shared folder is a solution which we're hoping will alleviate that problem.
We need the shared folder because the files, we used to register them manually on the book. So sometimes we have problems with so many missing files.
So if a case file, for example, gets lost in the system, it means that the case has to be postponed, that member of the public has to be returned to the correctional facility.
The shared folder will help us in a way that at least when I move a file, I'll record it there. It will be in the system that this file is moving from A to B.
E-upliftment is a solution to the archiving problem experienced at courts.
So the attorney have to come and uplift file at the filing rooms. They fill a form and then we uplift the file for them. People
had to go back to the storerooms or the archives, be able to locate the file, then bring it back. And that takes quite a bit of time.
And now there's an email upliftment form that people can send an email to the courts, and then there's the promise that the next day the file will actually be there.
So our primary function as the Office of the Chief Justice is to support the judiciary. So it means managing the operational functioning of the superior courts throughout the country.
The OCJ is still a quite young institution, and there's still an open question on how do you calculate the relationships between how many judges are in a court, how many courtrooms do you have, how much support staff would they need. The objective of the budgeting tool was really to figure out the real costs of running a court.
We can benchmark now one court against one another. For instance, if the ratio of a judge per judicial staff is different from one court to another, and we are able then to shift resources to create a balance in terms of ratios. It also allows us to have a more scientific approach to our budget, and it also assists us then when we approach National Treasury with a scientific approach to compete for resources of the state. And with this tool, it will enable us then to redistribute resources to create efficiencies which ultimately benefits everybody in the country.
Before we introduce any change, we realized that these changes needed to be communicated and we need to take the staff along. It's just natural for any official to feel threatened or feel unsure.
Well, systems and processes can sometimes be changed with the push of a button. Making people change to actually apply those systems is a lot more disruptive. So there was a change management strategy, and then because there was lower resources at the Office of the Chief Justice, we decided to second a change management expert to the Office of the Chief Justice and really have that person go alongside with their HR team to also do some skills transfer there. Another thing that we did was to have a mentorship program. So we took registrars and clerks from each of the participating 4 courts, into a mentorship program, had them trained on how they can be the champions of change.
I'm a change champion, and what it means to me is that I have to give the people the skills that I acquired through training so that I can make them at ease, to show them that change is painful, but it's not a bad thing.
The Office of the Chief Justice is focused on ensuring that the courts are efficient. And it's wonderful to find partners who are willing to assist in that process, to help us develop in skills that we don't have, or help us look at our processes from an independent point of view. Access to justice is important, and in the trying times we're living in, both economically and socially, it's very important for cases to run speedily and efficiently so that disputes can get resolved and people can move on with their lives.